Here. So winning in project management, we'll start off by talking a little bit about the reality of construction projects. We know that there's still many issues that are happening every day in all of these projects. The collaboration between project teams and stakeholders on these projects is still a big challenge. And all of this can lead to additional costs, delays, rework, etc. There's usually many teams that are involved in a construction project. You can see here that we have, the GC, we have owners, the design team, architects, engineers, and then we have subs with vendors under them. So all of these teams are working on their own parts of the project, which can lead to a lot of miscommunication and just poor planning and coordination. For example, you might have some design changes that are being made by architects, but these might not be effectively communicated effectively to the construction team. So this is always going to lead to rework and just wasted resources. Or we might have, different teams using different tools. And this is something that I'll talk a little bit more about during the webinar. But different teams using different tools. You might have, a team using or relying solely on emails, or maybe someone is tracking their equipment delivery through an Excel spreadsheet. So all of these different avenues just create information silos, and it makes it hard for everyone to just be on the same page. So with that being said, let's talk a little bit about the challenges in construction, specifically in project management. So Autodesk and FMI did a study, and about 14% of rework falls on the first point here, so incomplete or inaccurate data. The second one is tight schedules. We've probably all been in projects where the owner might want things done by tomorrow. So all of these projects are getting more and more complex, and the schedule just keeps getting shorter and shorter. I'll talk about the last point here, multiple systems of record. I mentioned this earlier, but every team or different teams are using different tools, and all of this ties back together, or it all leads to miscommunication, which can be one of the main drivers for project delays. So how do we fix this? Having access to the right tools, whether you're in the field, you're in the job site trailer, the office, having access to the right tools, maybe a cloud-based solution, will allow you to, or it'll get rid of that miscommunication. Everything is in one space, and you don't have to go digging through your emails or through that Excel spreadsheet that you might be using. Having procedure standards, when you work with one platform, teams can work more efficiently, as there's no learning curve between all of the projects that you might be working on, and all the company standards are being met. This ties into our third point here of having connected data, or one single source of truth, where everything you need, all of your RFIs, your submittals, your drawings, all of the documentation for the one specific project is in one space, and it's not spread out between multiple software. And then when all of this comes together, you're able to make decisions more confidently, as you do have access to all of the information that you might need to manage a project successfully. All right, so if all of these things that we just talked about are there, you do need something that is configurable to be able to adapt to your standards, or maybe to accommodate for any changes in workflows, depending on the client that you might be working with. And working with ACC, specifically Build for project management, does allow you for this level of flexibility. I'm not gonna go into too much detail about this slide and the next one, but I do want to show you all here. This is just showing us a little bit more of what ACC offers, this one specifically Build. But you have access to all of the project management tools, the RFIs, submittals, meetings, reports, forms, etc. And it can all be tracked in this one space that the entire project team has very easy access to. And then you also get into, cost management, quality, safety, all the way into project closeout, or, turning over the project. So again, all of it in one space. And then just to push it a little bit further, again, I'm not going to go through everything, but just to show you that the cloud also allows you for further collaboration with teams, not just in the construction phase. We can also collaborate with design teams, from design collaboration, model coordination, to and take it to your estimates, your bids, and then to PMing and all the construction aspects of it, all the way to, again, close out and turning over the project. Right, so let's get into the program a little bit. I am gonna switch between this presentation and showing you guys a little bit of Build. Not gonna go into too much detail about it, but just wanted to give you guys a heads up there. So we'll start off by talking about RFIs in Build specifically. Using the cloud, it allows you to control the process a little bit more, to hold people accountable. It gives, again, I mentioned this earlier, but it gives everyone in the project visibility to everything. It is collaborative and it has an audit trail, so you can really track when things are being done, how it's being done, who's doing all of these things. Outcomes, you're able to manage RFIs not only in the office, but also on site. So using the app, again, you have access to all of these things, very easy. You have the information that you need right then and there. There's no need to wait for, an email to come back or search through your entire Outlook for you to find what you're looking for. You're able to configure your workflows. I mentioned this earlier. Depending on the project you're in, you might have to change your process a little bit, depending on the client, depending on the type of project. Build and cloud-based solutions really allows you to configure how you do these things. You can connect RFIs across the project lifecycle. This is something that I will talk a little bit more about when I get into Build. You can connect different aspects of your project. You can connect an issue to an RFI, or you can have a PCO tied to an RFI. So there's multiple ways to connect RFIs to different things inside of Build. And then providing transparency and creating accountability. Again, like I mentioned earlier with the audit trail, this is available for everyone. You can see when an RFI was created, when the person responded to an RFI. So it really allows you to keep track of every single thing that's happening in your project. Right. Talking a little bit about, your traditional RFI workflows. You might be doing all of this through your emails. It's a longer process. It adds a lot more steps. Again, you have to dig through emails. You might not get to it today. You might get to it until next week. So again, it's just a longer process. So if we look at the cloud-based RFI workflow, it's all done in one space. You can easily just submit an RFI or create an RFI, link it to a drawing or a model, submit it to the RFI manager. From there, send it over to whoever is going to be reviewing. So it really does get rid of a lot of steps in that workflow. Right, so let's jump into Build really quick here. Share my other screen. So again, this will be very visible to everyone in the project team. There's a lot of permission levels that you can really customize for you to allow, more or less visibility to the project team for RFIs specifically, depending on your specific type of project. But this is going to show you, all of the information relevant, whose ball and court it's in, the type of RFI that it is, maybe the location of the project where this RFI is relevant to. And this does allow you to really generate good reports. If there's cost impact, if there's schedule impact, and maybe at the end of the week, you need to report out on all of the RFIs that had cost impact. So you can share with the owner. This really allows you to dig deep into that, and you can really, or you can generate great reports from all of the information that's provided here. I'll get into creating an RFI really quick here. So again, different levels of permission. You might see things a little bit different in some spaces or some projects versus others. But the concept here is for everyone on the project team to be able to ask a question. So you can submit your RFI, open it for a manager, which is someone internal, someone in your company. Just give it a title, the type of RFI, and then you can select who in your project is going to go to. So who the manager is for that RFI, you can select from that list, and it will automatically go to that person for them to either answer the question right then and there, or maybe push it a little bit further and send it to the architect, to the engineer for a response. Then your due date, location, then we get into the question and suggested answers. So all of those details are going to be here in this one space. And I did mention earlier being able to connect different parts of the project to specific RFIs. If you use Build, you probably see that there's references everywhere. But here specifically in the RFIs, we have the ability to reference cost items as well. And I guess cost isn't activated in this project, so I apologize for that. But you can reference change orders, anything that might have come from this RFI, it can all be tied back together. Same thing with an issue. If there was, an issue in the field, maybe some installation issue, and you created an issue at first, but then that escalated into an RFI, you can easily just reference that issue here. We'll say this one here, and it's all going to tie back together. So if I go to that issue, it is going to show me that there's already been an RFI that has been created from that initial issue. And then getting into more details, we have cost impact, schedule impact, priority, discipline, and there is a lot of ways to customize the way this is shown. So if you need to add more questions, you need to keep track of other items inside of this space. You can add custom fields, and you can again customize to your specific needs. All right. That's it for the RFIs. I'll keep going here. So moving on to submittals. This is a pretty similar process. Same thing with the automation, with accountability, date trackings, the audit trail that I mentioned earlier for RFIs. This is going to keep track of when all of these things are being done. Real-time status visibility for everyone in the project, for everyone in the field, for everyone in the office, and it is very collaborative. With this, you can really simplify the submittal workflow. You can start your project faster, again, providing real-time visibility into the statuses. I know I mentioned this earlier for RFIs, but there are lots of ways where you can customize who can see what and at what stage of the submittal process you have access to it. You can also annotate all of your submittals inside of Build without having to take it out of the space, take it into Bluebeam, Adobe, whatever PDF viewer that you use. You can all do it, or you can do it all in the cloud without having to go back and forth with the software. And you can also share submittals instantly. As soon as they're closed, as soon as the status changes, you are being notified of what's happening. So you can really push through that process. So again, traditional submittal process, it has a lot of steps. There are a lot of things that you have to do outside of the program that you might be using. You have to review the specs, create the submittal log, prepare all of the items, send it via email. So I think the email portion of this is what makes everything more complicated, more complex, waiting for responses, having to search through your entire inbox to find what you're looking for. But then on the subcontractor side, again, there's a lot of steps in there that need to be done. We get into cloud-based submittal process. It eliminates a lot of those steps. It's all done inside of this program. And there are ways, and I'll talk a little bit about it. There are ways to bulk import your submittal items or bring them in from different programs. But again, it's all in this one space. So submittals and build. Let's get into that one really quick. So again, I mentioned the ability to create items or bulk import items into this without you having to create it one by one. So we have auto specs. We're probably not going to have too much time to talk about it today, but auto specs where you can upload your specifications and the system, picks up all of the submittal items or action items coming from that spec book. So that's a very easy way to import all of your submittal items. You don't have to go through every single page of the spec book. It will automatically do that for you, or you can import items. There are many places in Build in general where you'll have templates that you can fill out and then bulk import that information into Build without you, again, having to create it one by one. But this is just going to show us, the status, so the step that submittal item is in, the number, the spec section, responsible contractor, the title. This is all going to depend on permission levels and what you have access to. But at the end of the day, once that submittal is closed, the entire project team will have visibility. So they'll have access to it. They'll be able to see when the submittal was approved or rejected or whatever the case might be, the final submittal PDF, approved PDF. So all of the information that's relevant, it's very easy to access through the web, but also in the field, in the iPad or tablet or whatever it is that you're using. That information is easily available for everyone in the project. So you can see here in this closed submittal that you have the response type, the final response, and then final documents here. Very easy. You don't have to search through, the entire page when things were done or whatever the case might be. You have very easy access to these documents. But also the audit trail that I mentioned earlier. If you're really looking for dates, when things were created and when they were received by the subcontractor, you can keep track of all of those items in here. Now getting into schedule management. So real-time status visibility is in all of these slides here. These schedules are instant. You can instantly share with everyone in the project team. It is streamlined and it is collaborative. You can connect the schedule to the entire project. Just like I mentioned earlier with the references, you can reference different things to schedule items as well. You can find what you're looking for quickly. There's plenty of filters that help you search for what you're looking for. And then you can access the schedule anywhere, again, from the tablet, from your iPad. You can easily look at schedule items, filter by maybe specific dates or what you're looking for, and have access to it everywhere without having to go back to the office and print out a PDF or, maybe ask the scheduler to give you a screenshot of what's going to be done that day. It's very easy to access all of that information through the cloud. So traditional schedule management workflow, again, there's more steps. It's going from the schedule manager, whoever it is that's creating that schedule. Maybe it's the superintendent, maybe it's the PM. And then they email it to the entire project team, internal project team. And then from there, the PM or PX or whoever it is will then forward it to all of the trades for them to review, for them to, make suggestions, etc. So again, we're relying a lot on emails, and a lot of things can get lost if you are just using emails for your workflows. If we go to cloud-based schedule management workflow, it starts off in the same with the same process from the schedule manager, superintendent, PM, whoever it is that's creating that initial schedule, but they can easily upload it to Build to your cloud-based solution, and then distribute it from there to the entire project team. There are ways to allow different members, different maybe roles inside of Build to be able to collaborate, to suggest changes, to add comments, to add references. So it can be very collaborative as much as you need it to be. From there, you can approve all of these suggestions or not approve these suggestions depending on what members are asking you to do with that schedule. Let's get into Build really quick here. So this is what that schedule looks like. We have all of the schedule activities here to the left, and then we have the Gantt chart here. So again, it is very easy to view all of these, or the funnel icon here. If I click on this, we do have access to filter by a lot of different things. So if you're looking for maybe just milestones specifically, no milestones in the schedule, but again, we do have all of these options for you to be able to really gather the information that you might need. By date range, if you're trying to look for, today to 3 weeks, a 3-week look ahead, and then maybe create a plan for that for all of your subs. You can filter by all of that, by labor, resources, status, and then any references. Again, just like everything else in Build, you can really tie everything back to something else inside of the program. And all of these filters, I do want to mention, that are going to be as good or as detailed as your schedule is. So whatever native scheduling software it is that you're using, the more information that you put in here, the better it's going to be in this space for people to be able to access the information that they are looking for. And then I mentioned earlier being able to collaborate with your team members. Right now we're in viewing mode, but we also have suggesting mode. So if you do end up giving, your subs, your owners, etc., access to be able to suggest edits, they can modify anything, or not modify, but they can suggest changes to any of these activities. So for example, if they know this storage container is not going to get there on January 3rd, I can go in here, click on this, suggest an edit, and it's all going to go to the PM, to someone internal, for them to review and say, hey, yes, this is, I approve this is good, or no, you have to bring it on January 3rd. Same thing with, finish dates, percent complete, the duration of that activity, etc. Again, it just allows for collaboration with the entire project team. And from here, you can look at, anything that members have suggested. This does go into a lot of detail as to who did it. You can also add, let's see if this works. Okay, I'll just go back into here. But you can also add comments, to explain a little bit further why this might not be getting delivered this exact date. So again, it's just keeping track of all of the activities, all of the information inside of your project schedule. Right. Going back to this. And lastly, we'll talk a little bit about cost management. Not going to get into too much detail, but within cost, you can track all of your contracts, your change orders, your owner and sub pay apps. You have access to more accurate forecasting. You're able to control your costs a little bit better. And you can also keep track of subcontractor qualifications all in this one space. One thing that I will mention about this, since we have been talking about, data silos, this program does allow you to integrate with your ERP. So it's not two completely separate programs with different information. You don't have to kind of go back and forth and see what was done in my ERP and then what do I need to put into cost management. There are ways to integrate those two systems so that anything that you put into cost management goes back into your ERP and vice versa, depending on the workflow that you want. So again, this is very customizable to your specific needs. Let's get into another project here. So just to show you all really quick what the program has. So we're able to keep track of our budget here. If there's contracts tied to specific budget items, we can all see it in this space. Your budget, your costs, forecasting any variance between these items here. You can keep track of all of it in this space. Your main contract, if you want to keep track of it here, you do have the ability to keep track of the main contract and what's tied to that from your budget. And same thing with your contract pay applications. Then getting into the cost module, we have all of your subcontracts, your purchase orders, any internal contracts that you might have. You can keep track of it all through the space. And similar to what I was just showing you all in the budget module, you can keep track of all of those numbers and what is tied to which subcontract, etc. So subcontracts here, and then we get into sub pay apps. Again, all of this is something that you can keep track of in this one space, and same thing with your project expenses. Then getting into change orders, we have all the way from a potential change order. If you need to send it to the subs for pricing, we do have a tab for that as well. And then getting into change order requests, owner change orders, supplier change orders, etc. All done through ACC, through the cloud. And then lastly, forecast, the forecast tab. We have cost and time, cash flow, and performance tracking. So this way, or in this tab at least, you can tie the schedule that we were just looking at back to the specific budget items. So it really allows you to keep track of everything very specifically, again, without having to go through different avenues to access this data. And these are just snapshots of the same thing that I just talked about. And I think that's pretty much it for today. Just in conclusion, I think projects in construction require a lot of planning and coordination to be able to deliver a successful project or a successful outcome. And using manual processes and systems, it's always going to be inefficient. There's risk of error and losing data in the meantime. So using a cloud-based solution really helps you streamline all of those processes and for you to be able to remove those data silos and disconnection in the projects.